and let's make sure that we can coordinate and improve the services that are being provided for refugees when they arrive. And so that's what I have been doing now for a couple of years. So at one level, my job is to try and make sure that the Commonwealth government, the state government agencies work together in a coordinated way. Obviously, a lot of my focus is on the New South Wales government services and programs, and making sure that health and education and justice, etc., work well together. Department of Industry works well together. The good news is, I think, that when you look at the settlement services provided to refugees in Australia and in New South Wales, they are generally of a very high level indeed. And I say that, by international standards. But clearly, there were gaps and improvements that needed to be made. And so the way I tried to do that as the Coordinator General is to work with community organisations, ethnic communications, community organisations, and not-for-profit organisations to try and identify where were the gaps that could be filled, where were the improvements that could be made. And then I worked very strongly with employers and corporate New South Wales to make sure that we could work together on trying to get a new and innovative employment program up. Obviously, there are a number of things we wanted to look at. Number one is education. Education is the key for the children of refugees to gain equal opportunity, and about half of those who come in the refugee intake are 40 to 50% are children's age. So we needed to make sure that the education they get would then allow them to go on and become full and effective citizens. So a significant amount of additional resources have gone into increasing the educational support, most of it in New South Wales public schools, but there have also been separate funding made available to the Catholic schools and the independent schools to help give additional support services to refugees in the classroom, and to make sure, of course, that they get the intensive English level support that they require. A lot of the resources have gone into health, and particularly refugee nurse programs, because when refugees come here, it is clear that once they arrive and we undertake medical checks, that the standard of their health is often less than we might have thought. Not surprising given their background. The other thing is, of course, many refugees, adults and children, are suffering significant trauma from the experience that they've gone through. So when we talk about additional health services being provided, it is mental health services and also trauma counselling services. Some of it's provided by the government itself, some of it via not-for-profit organisations like STARTS or like SSI or like the Red Cross or Anglicare. But here's the thing. Overall, we could improve and have improved educational services and health services. We put additional money into providing legal aid, which is very important for refugees. But the largest single gap that most communities have identified is in the area of employment. And so that's where a lot of our attention has gone in the last year. And therefore, I think that probably the most interesting and innovative part of what New South Wales is doing, which isn't being done anywhere else in Australia, is to create a new program, a Refugee Employment Support Program, RESP or RESP. And that's only been going a few months, but the aim of it is to provide cased managed support. In other words, that refugees come in and they have a one-on-one discussion about what their experience is, what their skills are, what qualifications they have, what their aspirations are, what levels of English do they require. And so someone can sit down with refugees and talk about what are the most realistic pathways to get into employment. Often it's not going to happen overnight, but you need to have clear pathways, and they need to be discussed and indeed negotiated with the refugees themselves. So it's based upon those conversations. Now, already we've had, if you look at the number of refugees arriving in New South Wales, in the 2 years up until now, it's been about 16,000 humanitarian entrants have come into New South Wales. To put that in perspective, normally in that period you'd expect probably 8,500, 9,000. So it's been a significant increase in the numbers, and about half of them are of working age. So the aim is to then provide them with support to help them get what they most want to do, of course, which is to be able to find education or to get employment so that they can start to become self-reliant again, to support their own families. So the Refugee Employment Support Program, it's been going only 5 months now. The aim of it is over the next 4 years, it's going to provide support for about 6,000 refugees and about 1,000 asylum seekers. So it's quite a large number will be going through the program. The good news is, and really why I wanted to talk to you, is that the program is working and seems to be working well. I think at the moment we've got almost 1,500 refugees that have started to get on the program. And many of them are going through testing, some of them going through obviously improving English, a number of them are going into vocational education, because the New South Wales government through the Smart and Skilled program is making certificated training up to Certificate 4 available free with scholarships to refugees. And already, and this surprises me, we've got 150 people into employment, and on a separate scheme which we're doing in the New South Wales Public Service, which of course is the largest employer in New South Wales, we're aiming at getting 100 people into employment, and we've got about 70 positions so far going to employment. So you can start to see that if you give the support that's necessary, if you actually design a program, and if you get refugees involved in having discussions about their aspirations and how to achieve them, you can start to actually improve the success of getting refugees into employment. And of course, many refugees don't just want to get into employment. Refugees are the group in Australia who are the most likely group to want to set up their own businesses. Very large proportion of family businesses in the refugee population. So this is getting them often jobs, but where they think, well, if I do this job for 3 or 4 or 5 years, I've got a chance of setting up my own business with my family. And the key to that, of course, is to make sure that we can have refugees as quickly as possible, not just being able to support their own lives, not only being self-reliant, not only getting that sense of control over their lives once more, but also, as they do that, contributing back to Australian society. We need the social welfare net, the settlement services when refugees first arrive. But if someone then has to spend the next 30 years living off that, that's not a success. Refugees don't want to do that. So what they want to do is to get that support, and then, as fast as they possibly can, to find their own employment and support their own families. So that's why I think the Refugee Employment Support Program is such an exciting initiative. And I didn't want to talk to you until we'd done about the first 5 or 6 months to make sure it's working. I can now hand on heart tell you this is a program that is working, and over the next 12 months, next 24 months, we'll see an increasing number of refugees be able to use that support and that program and that mentoring and that employment opportunities to get on their own 2 feet.